What's up, Roach Boy? Guy named Ty, and today we're going to be talking about how you can create a bank, like the ones you already know about. Let's just jump into it. Run the intro.
Caught up in them bright lights, lusting for shiny things that's golden. Everything ain't always what it seems, that it's soaking. Chasing my dreams, coming apart at my seams. Best believe that the money is the motive.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the MITM podcast. And today we're talking about creating a bank like you already know about. Now, this is another chapter from Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. And we're going to be reading and going through it, okay? This is really great. So if you're going to create a bank like the one you already know about, there's a number of steps you must go through. Like the grocery store business we discussed earlier, you must first study the business so that you have a firm grip on what it's all about and feel that you can run such a business. Without such confidence, you're fighting a lost cause. It's a jungle out there. Next, you must get some capital, money, and it had better be in the order of $20 million or more. This money must sit in some other bank in a very liquid form, and it'll be earning extremely low interest. Then you go to the banking commissioner's office and apply for a bank charter. Bear in mind that the commissioner doesn't hand out charters indiscriminately. The chances of your getting one at this point is probably less than 100 to 1. There are a lot of folks that would like to be bankers. You must wait your turn. Whenever I hear the word commissioner, I always think of an iceberg. Only 10% appears above the water. There's a lot going on that is unseen. At this point, you need to use your imagination. The bottom line is that you're going to spend a lot of money and time in this phase of creating your bank. Years are likely to have passed before you finally win the coveted charter. In the meantime, you've probably gone through the part about a good location, suitable building, and all the considerable expenses. Now you're finally in the business as a bank. You must make your bank known by lots of advertising. Okay? You must induce people to make a deposit to your bank. Why do you think they would deposit their money with your bank when they could easily do business with established banks that have been there for years, right? You're going to have to pay them something better than what they're getting at their current bank connection. Do you notice thus far that you've been paying out money for years in getting this business established? In his book, Paper Money, author Adam Smith has this to say: a banker cannot make a loan unless he has a deposit. It seems a little silly to state that so baldly, but if 3 college-educated Americans in 10 don't know that we have to import oil, I don't feel so bad about saying something bald. Banks do not lend their money. They lend the money somebody else has left there. Later on in the book, he goes on to explain, when you start up a bank, you have to put in some capital. Then you get some deposits, and then you lend the deposits in a proper bank. These 3 items are prudent relation to one another. If you're a little country bank with a capital of $100,000, it would be very imprudent of you to loan Brazil $50 million. So you want a prudent relationship between the capital and the asset, which is to say the loans on the books and between the loans in the deposits. In the Western countries, financial agents of governments are there with a definition of prudence. Yes, there are financial agents of the government with definition of prudence, but they still did not preclude massive bank failures in the mid-1980s in America. During this time, the Asian banking community could do no wrong. They were hailed as financial geniuses. Now, there are bank failures in Asia that are much greater than those that occur in the US. My point is that we're not dealing here with man-made laws. They have failed miserably. We're dealing with relations among people. Example, God made laws. You disobey them at your own peril. A case comes to mind. In September 1983, the First National Bank of Midland, Texas, the richest city in America per capita at the time, had a loan portfolio of $1.5 billion. And 26% of those loans were non-performing, i.e., they're not getting any money back. This is the big downer in the banking business. When this sort of thing happens, someone has to support the situation, which is normally the function of the stockholders. Because of losses, the stockholders' equities lost 87% of its value, down to 12 million. Remember the prudent relationship that Adam Smith outlined above. 12 million in capital in relation to 1.5 billion in loan. That is a shaky bank. It's not somewhere you want to put your money, and that is why banks like the Silicon Valley Bank recently went down and is looking for help from the government. When the public found out about it, you can predict what happened to the bank deposits at First National at the time, right? They decreased by 500 million. Remember, this is what banks lend, deposits made by their customers. This accelerated their decline, and this is called a run on the bank. This all sounds pretty ominous, but you haven't seen anything yet. You must add the multiplier effect of banks' lending practices. Practically no one is aware that when you make a deposit of $1,000 at your favorite bank, they can now lend out $10,000 as a result of your deposit. It's called the fractional reserve lending system. That is, they're creating money out of thin air. My own description of what they're doing is the world's largest con game. It is all predicted on the theory that everyone is not going to withdraw their money at the same time. For a complete treatise on what is going on in banking, I beg you to read The Case Against the Fed by Murray Rothbard. You can get it at the Ludwig von Mises Institute located in Auburn, Alabama. You could probably also get it on Amazon. The First National Bank hired a new CEO to come in and put out the fire, but it was too late. 2 months later, they were out of business. A more complete picture of what happened to this bank appeared in December issue of a drilling magazine. Reading between the lines, it was pretty evident that a lot of those non-performing loans were made to the members of the board of directors. They were making loans to themselves to invest in the oil business, where they were going to make a killing, and neglecting to repay the loans. There was a big energy crisis just a while before this. When the oil business returned to normal, these folks lost both their oil businesses and their banking businesses. Had they repaid their loans plus interest, their bank would have still been open and operating, but greed prevailed and did them in. All banks that went bankrupt during that period in record quantities were just a variation of what happened here. Does all this sound somewhat like the grocery store example that you read about earlier? If the owner and his family take groceries out the back door without paying for them, he will probably go bankrupt. It happened in the banking business too. Remember, this is because in banking systems, I'm going to tell you about, you can also destroy it by not obeying the basic rules of banking. Loans have to be paid back, or you can kill the best business in the world. It's up to you, but don't try to blame others when it happens. You must admit that getting into the business this way is very costly and time consuming. It'll be a long time before you show a profit, probably as much as 10 years. But it must be extremely profitable over the long haul for people to go through the gory mess that you've read about. There's a much easier way to accomplish the creation of your own banking system, and the mechanism has been around for over 200 years. It's tried and true. It's called participating, i.e., dividend paying, whole life insurance. But the problem is that very few people know how the business works, including the home office folks in the life insurance company. Now I'm going to plug something in here because even when I go and I call Manulife and I'm trying to get things sorted out with my policy, they don't know what the heck I'm talking about. I had a 1 hour long meeting with someone working with Manulife to help me learn more about how to best use their life insurance policies. And I am teaching the person in the phone call how to properly structure things and how we should approach things for a specific business. And I help the client go from the $19,000 business owner that wanted a very large policy. They're going to pay $19,000 per year. And I, with my advice, changed that policy from $19,000 per year to $3,000 for the same coverage. Crazy. But a lot of people working at these insurance companies have no idea what their company actually is able to do. They just call and read the script and are like these automatons talking so much bullshit. But anyways, At this point, it will help if you understand what it means by the word cogeneration. It's a term used in the production of electrical power, as most everyone knows electrical power is produced in plants using fossil fuels, coal and petroleum products, nuclear fuel, or water to turn turbines. But there's another source of electrical power that is significant: the wood products plant. Sawmills and paper mills. Trees are harvested for the wood they contain, but the bark on the outside of the tree and the sawdust from sawing lumber has little economic value, but they make really good fire. This source of heat can do the same thing that fossil fuels do to turn dynamos to produce electricity. Every sawmill of significant size and all paper mills have a cogeneration plant to make their own electricity. Imagine that you own a paper mill and that your cogeneration plant can produce 125% of your mill's need for electrical power. What do you do with the surplus power? Yes, you can sell it, but do you erect power distribution lines and get a sales force and ask potential customers if they'd like to buy power from you instead of their customary power supplier? Hell no. You understand how the power distribution system all works and simply tie into the established system and sell them the power. It's much more efficient than trying to do it any other way. Creating your own banking system through the use of dividend-paying life insurance is much like cogeneration. All the ingredients are already there in place. All you have to do is understand what's going on in such insurance plans to tap into the system. All right, that is a chapter on how to build your own bank like the ones that you already know about. Okay? Crazy. Everything is already there and ready for you. Everything is already prepared and ready for you to tap into. You don't have to do all the extra work of actually opening a bank. That's silly. But what you can do is utilize all the tools that are there and waiting for you and ready for you to be able to maximize what your dollar does. Okay? Now we can put our money somewhere and let it sit there. And it starts off small, but it grows. And if your main goal is to reach your final point, if your main goal is to reach a certain level, then you're bound to be successful. And over time, the way that we fund our policy, we may have to get creative with how we fund the policy. For example, one of the ones that I'm working on right now has a maximum deposit option of $100,000. And I'm only allowed to put $100,000 across $120 or so $1,000 across the first 20 years of the policy. So I'm trying to reach that point as quickly as possible, because with the interest rate that's earned on that, eventually the interest on the compounding side will always do better than the interest on the loan provision side. Okay? And for me, I just assume 10% on the loan provision side that I'm paying back no matter what, which so far has been pretty wise. Any dollar that I take out, I got to put $1.10 back. And on the investment and compounding side, I just expect 5%. So I'm always expecting less than I would be earning. In fact, I like to do my calculations at 4%. It is higher than 4%, but I'm extremely conservative when it comes to dealing with money. Extremely. So I expect to pay back a 10% loan, and I expect to only get 4% interest, and I do all of my loan provisionings with those numbers in mind. Okay? And the crazy thing is I can pay back this loan whenever I feel like it. I can shove more capital into the policy without paying back the loan to then increase my compounding effect versus the loan provisioning effect. What I actually did back in December is I helped one of my friends buy a cell phone. I set them up on a 2-year plan now. Every month they pay $27 towards my bank. That includes the interest rate, right? It's like $600 out. It's very small because we start small. We test these things out. I gave them $600 at a certain interest rate across the 2 years. They're paying $27 a month. At the end of the loan time frame, I will have all my money back plus a little bit to cover the interest rate. And in that meantime, my same $600 was sitting in that account gaining interest. Crazy. Absolute crazy. So I'm very, very grateful to be able to have found this book and stumbled upon it. And I'm excited to share it with all of you, because this book, there's so many things in here. It's only about 80 pages, but I'm breaking it down like one of these little stories at a time because there's so much value in this. Okay. Next time, we're going to talk about creating your own banking system through dividend paying life insurance. And this is where we actually break everything down on exactly how to do this. This is a much, much longer chapter, but we're gonna go through it, and we're gonna talk about some numbers. And I know numbers can be difficult to just hold in your head, but no worries. We're gonna go through it together, and I'm going to make it accessible to all of you. So thank you so much for checking out the latest episode of the MITM podcast. And with that being said, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Give them that creme de la creme whenever I spit that hot shit. Ain't no lose or draw when it's the only option. Till I'm balling like Stockton, I'm locked in. Researching the best stock tips, fuck gossip unless it makes a profit.